Hello everyone and welcome to our first chapter of our attacking manual course. In this very first chapter we are going to analyze some typical positions where one side has decided to keep their king for too long in the center and the dangers this may bring to that side. As we may know, it is very advisable to castle with your king in the early stage of the game, as the king is naturally more safer on the short side or longer side, depending on the circumstances. Of course, as we know, there are no absolute rules in chess, so this is no exception. There are cases when you should leave your king in the center, and this may even help you develop an attack to the already castled opponent's king, which we will dedicate a chapter to that theme. However, in this very first chapter we are going to analyze the more frequent case, and that is when the uncastled king is a target for the opponent's forces. The first game we are going to analyze is the game between Kuprejcik Victor against Skembris Spiridon, which so Kuprejcik was leading white pieces while Skembris was black. And this is the position from which we will start our analysis. This position we have before us arose from one of the sideline variation from the Petrov opening. And in this game, White tried to avoid exchange of knights. So his kingside knight was developed to f3, but later on he wanted to avoid exchanging it for the black knight on g5, so he played not so successful maneuver knight e2 and then knight b3. So we can see already that White has spent too much time and too many moves moving his knight. Using that time, Black has already castled. He has moved his king to the safety of kingside, and he has also developed most of his pieces. And this cannot be said for White. The only drawback of Black's position here is the somewhat odd position of his knight on g5. And this is something White hoped he will manage to exploit and launch an attack with an f4 attack. However, launching an attack and playing overambitiously and energetically with a king in the center is not something is rarely good in chess, and this game is an instructive example that confirms this advice. So in this position, Black is on the move, and he plays knight b4, a logical move, so he's threatening to capture this bishop on d3, which is a very important piece in these positions, as without it the white squares of White position will be weakened. And in this position, White played f4. As we said, this was his main idea from the start of the game, attacking this misplaced knight. But in this case, this is a serious mistake, as White continues to neglect his development, and as we will see, he will be severely punished for this. In these positions, in these kind of positions, normally White would like to play bishop e2, so preserving the bishop. But here it is not good, as after bishop f5, threatening knight c2, knight e3, a5. In this position, Black already has a serious advantage because White's knights on b3 and especially on a3 are very badly placed. So this is something White should avoid. And instead of this move, bishop e2 or f4, objectively it was better for White to acknowledge that the opening phase has gone wrong for him, and he should have played knight c3, developing the knight, and after knight takes on d3 check, queen takes on d3, and now for example f5. Here in this position Black has excellent prospects, as he may advance his f-pawn even further, and he has two bishops advantage, especially his light square bishop may become strong as he has no opponent. But the position is objectively around equal. After the move played in the game, which is f4, here black replied with excellent move, bishop g4, attacking the queen, and using the fact that this bishop, if this bishop is captured, then he will just take the bishop, on d3 with check. And this is a nice way to develop this light squared bishop with a tempo, and it also has a nice attacking idea to follow. And this is a very natural human move, bishop g4, and I believe that most of the human players would play a move like this. However, black had a fantastic resource besides bishop g4, and it has a similar idea that to the one we will see in the game, and that move is knight h3, brilliant move. And as we can see, this knight is now controlling the g1 square, so not allowing white king to escape to the safety of the king side. And this move really has an aesthetic effect to it, as one rarely gets to see moves like this. So after knight h3, white will, of course, capture this knight. Bishop h4 check, king d2. If white plays king f1, then after bishop takes on h3 check, king g1, rook e8. White king is in terrible position. Take a look how these bishops are cutting the king side completely, and he is also threatening to win material with rook e1. And if white plays, for example, bishop e2 covering the e file, black can simply play queen f6 and threaten to immediately mate white with queen g6, and of course black is completely winning here. So on bishop h4 it is more resilient to play king d2, and after knight takes on d3, king takes d3, bishop f5 check. This leads to a position where white is a whole piece up, but however his king's position is very compromised. His king is in the center, and also black has a monster bishop pair that's offering more than enough compensation for black. I will not go too much into detail in this position. I will just give some illustrative lines to showcase the power of black pieces and the weaknesses of white's king. For example, after king d2, black can play d5, c5. Of course, white is trying to keep the position as close as possible, but after a5, threatening to win piece with a4, rook e8, knight c3, and now rook a6, excellent move with the idea to transfer the bishop to e6 or even possibly to g6. We can see that here the position is, black's position has reached attacking potential, while take a look how pathetically placed white pieces are, completely out of game. So this position is giving a very strong attack to black. Instead of king d2, white can also try king c3, so trying to keep this bishop on c1 open. But here black plays c5, trying to open this diagonal for his bishop. White plays bishop e3, developing his pieces. Rook e8, attacking the bishop. And now king d2. If white plays queen d2, this would lead to a rather grotesque position. And after queen b6, threatening to give mate in 1 nonetheless. a3, stopping the mate. a5, excellent move. Black is nonetheless threatening to give mate after sacrificing his queen with queen b4. And if white decides to take on c5, then after bishop f6 check and d takes c5, capturing, white's king will be slaughtered in the center. So because of that, queen d2 is not the best move. That is most resilient, as white is in big trouble in this position. After king d2, queen e7, increasing the pressure on this bishop. Queen e2, queen e4, attacking both the rook on h1 and also threatening to give mate on with queen c2. Knight e3, trying to protect against both threats. If white plays rook c1, keeping this square with his rook, then black can play a fantastic move, which is bishop f2, attacking the bishop. And now, of course, white cannot take the bishop with his dark squared bishop, as this would lead to a loss of the queen. And after queen takes f2, queen d3 with the next rook takes on e3, black's position collapses completely. So after queen e4, we said knight a3, and now after a5, rook from h to f1, a4, knight c1, and now a very nice maneuver from black, which is bishop d8, and with the next bishop a5, there is nothing white can do against this threat, and he is completely lost here. So those were some illustrative lines that show the potential of black pieces after knight h3, and this was the best move for black, although he keeps big advantage after the game's bishop g4. And here white commits another mistake, and he plays queen d2. So he continues to underestimate the dangers of his position, and also continues to play ambitiously. This was the last moment for him to evacuate his king with bishop e2. And now after bishop takes e2, bishop f5 is also an option, keeping the bishop on board. So bishop e2, queen takes on e2, knight e6, and now shore castle. Although after bishop f6, here this would lead to a very bad position for white. I will just add that here after knight e6, white cannot play f5, attacking the knight, as this would lead to a loss after knight takes d4. Excellent move. Knight takes on d4, bishop f6, so the knight is hanging, and black is also threatening to give check, that is to win the queen on e file. So white plays queen d2, bishop takes d4. White cannot recapture on d4 because of knight c2 fork, so he has to take the knight on b4. But here after knight h4 check, this would again lead to a decisive king hunt. Black will simply take all the pawns on the king side after queen g4 check, and possibly bringing one of these rooks into play. So that was bishop e2, and that was the lesser evil for white. However, he continued to play it ambitiously with queen d2. And here black plays knight f3 check, which is a brilliant move. So this is a familiar motif of holding the white king in the center, although in a different variation this time. White is of course forced to take this knight. G takes f3, bishop h4 check, and now king f1. King d1 was slightly better, but nonetheless white's position remains in ruins after bishop takes f3, bishop e2, bishop takes on h1, queen takes b4, a5, queen c3, and after rook e8, the material is approximately equal, while white's king is completely out of place. So in the game, white played king f1, and here black made a mistake. He played bishop h3, which is an artistic way to continue the attack, because he wants to completely restrict white pieces. However, objectively, this move squanders a big part of black's advantage. He should have played bishop takes on f3, but the continuation to the winning idea to black was not so trivial, and this move has a very subtle point. After bishop takes f3, white can play queen takes b4 and rook g1. Let's take a look at both of them. So first let's take a look at rook g1, queen d7. Of course, black wants to give check on h3, so white tries to cover that with f5. And here the right move for black is to play rook from a to e8. I will just note that a rook from f to e8 would lead to a sudden rescue for white, as he would be able to play rook takes g7 check, king takes g7, king f8 also leads to a draw after rook g3, bishop takes on g3, and after queen h6 we again have a perpetual check. So after king takes g7, queen h6 check, king g8, queen takes on h4, knight takes on d3, and after queen g5 check we again have a perpetual check. So that's the reason black should play with the other rook from a8. And now after queen takes b4, I will just note that rook takes g7 is not effective now, because after king takes g7, queen h6 check, king h8, black is threatening to give mate on e1, so white doesn't have time to play f6. And after queen takes on h4, now black has f6 move here, and this bishop on d3 is hanging, and black continues with his decisive attack here. So because of that, after the move rook from a to e8, white can continue with queen takes b4, but here black plays bishop e4, excellent move, so disrupting the connection between white's bishop and the f5 pawn, which means that his queen will jump into play with fatal consequences for white's king. After king e2, or for example bishop takes e4, rook takes e4, queen b5, c6, queen a5, and after d5, white's queen cannot participate in defense of this pawn, and after queen takes f5, white's king will be quickly mated. So after bishop e4, he may try king e2, but after queen takes f5, bishop takes e4, queen takes e4 check, he's of course forced to play king d2. If he goes to d1, then black will simply mate him in 1. So he has to go to d2, but this leads to a loss of the queen and the whole game. So that was the move rook g1. We covered that one. The other move white also has is queen takes b4, which is a better move. And now black would need to find a very subtle move, as we said. This is not so easy to find, and that is rook e8, excellent move. Why is this so important? Well, if black immediately takes on h1, this will give white's defense a precious tempo for the defense, and that is king g1, excellent move, so attacking the bishop now. And now after queen d7, if black plays bishop f3, retreating the bishop, then after queen c3 now, threatening to play bishop takes h7 and take the bishop on f3, we can see how much black's attack has lost its momentum. So queen d7 is better, but after king takes h1, queen h3, threatening with queen f3 and taking on d3. Queen takes on b7. This is the best move, as this allows white to return his queen to the defense. If he plays bishop e2, this would be a terrible blunder, as after bishop g3, white is immediately mated. So queen takes b7, queen takes on d3, and after queen g2, of course, here black is much better, but it's not a decisive advantage as it is after the right move, which is rook e8. And now the rook is hanging once again. And after rook g1, queen d7, again threatening to give mate on h3, f5, rook e4. This is a motive we have already seen. And once again black will have a crushing attack once his queen joins the fray. So that was the move bishop takes f3, which was objectively the best move and should have led to a quick victory for black. Although, as we said, in this variation he would need to find rook e8 move, which is very hard to find in a practical game. So he played bishop h3, check, and now after king e2, black is a piece up, although his king is badly placed, and this leads to a very unclear position. I will just note that king g1 would lead to a quick and neat mate. After knight takes on d3, queen takes on d3, black first plays rook e8, threatening to give mate in one, that is to give mate in 2. And after bishop d2, here you can even use this position as a puzzle for yourself. So try to pause the video and find a mating combination for black. I will just continue now. So here black mates with bishop f2, sacrificing the bishop. King takes on f2, and now queen h4 check, king g1, rook e1, bishop takes on e1, queen takes on e1, and on the next move white king will be mated. So because of that, white is forced to run to e2, and here black played a5, protecting his active knight on b4. And it is very instructive here to notice that although, as we will see, black would like to capture this bishop on d3 because this would make his bishop on h3 very powerful, he's postponing this exchange because, as we can see, white forces have problems with the space and with the development, so he doesn't want to create some additional space for the other pieces, and he's postponing the exchange. Also, with this move, he may play a4 move at any point, attacking this clumsy knight on b3. After a5, white played king d1, removing the king from the e-file. a3 would be a dubious move, as after rook e8 check, king d1. If he plays bishop e4, this would be a mistake, as after f5 and if takes e4, black is just winning. So king d1 is better. But after knight takes on d3, queen takes on d3, b5, excellent move. So this kind of move is no surprise, as black wants to attack weakened light squares. C takes b5. I'll just notice that knight from 3 to d2 is slightly more stronger and resilient, but we'll just follow the main principal move. C takes b5, and now after a4 first, knight is forced to go to d2, and now d5, excellent move. We can see how this knight on d2 is badly limited. And after knight c3, black plays bishop f2, attacking, taking under control these squares, and he may even trap this rook with bishop g2, and after this rook is captured, he will inevitably infiltrate white's position with rook e1. And this leads to a winning position for black. So that was the move a3, and that's the reason white played king d1. And here black played a natural move, queen d7. So from here the queen supports bishop f5 if necessary, and if white plays a3 at some point in the future, he may even jump to a4 and attack this knight on b3. And here, this is the critical moment of the game. Here white played a3, and this is a decisive mistake, after which white won't be able to coordinate his pieces until the very end of the game. Let's take a look at some other options white had at his disposal. Let's say first that knight c3 would be a blunder, as this leads to a loss of piece after a4, so that's not a serious move. He can also try bishop e4, so trying to cement this his position with this bishop. But after rook from f to e8, wanting to take on e4, a3, rook takes e4, a takes b4. Of course, he cannot take here because after bishop g4, he will need to give up his queen. So a takes b4, rook from e to e8, b takes a5. This is a stronger move than rook takes a5, because after rook takes a5, b takes a5, black can play queen f5 with tempo, attacking the knight on b1, and after knight c3, queen g6, he is threatening to win immediately with bishop g2, and for example knight e4, bishop g2 leads to an immediate loss for white. So that's the reason b takes a5 is stronger. And now after d5, excellent move. So this move should come as no surprise. As we said, it's only natural to attack these weakened light squares. And of course, one important thing is that black also prevents white from playing himself d5, which would enable him to place this knight very actively on d4. For example, if black were to play queen f5 immediately, which this would be a mistake, and after d5 suddenly it's white who is better here after knight d4. So d5, knight c3, and here I will just give the main line that goes like this: queen f5, excellent move, knight takes on d5, queen h5, attacking the pawn on h3, queen d3, bishop g2, king c2, bishop takes on h1, knight takes on c7, bishop takes f3, knight takes on e8, rook takes on e8, knight c5, bishop g4, and here this leads to a position where white is 2 pawns up. However, his king is, as it was before, very badly placed, and black's monster bishops, especially the light squared one, is powerful. Give him a dangerous attack, although if white is able to defend himself, he will be up in the material, so he is not without any chances. So this was the move bishop e4, as we said. The last move we will consider here for white is to radically stop the a4 threat with a4 himself. So as we said, the good side to this move is that now this knight on b3 is secured against any attacks, but the drawback is that the knight on b4 is very safe now and doesn't need to clarify itself. After a4, black plays rook from a to e8, knight c3, bishop f5, and here bishop takes f5 is the best. Now let's take a look quickly after bishop e4, black continues with rook takes e4, and now we have two possible moves for white. If he takes with knight, then after bishop takes e4, f takes e4, queen h3, excellent move, so attacking the knight on b3 and also threatening queen f3. Knight takes a5. If white plays queen e3, this would be a bad move, because after queen g2 he's threatening to win the rook on h1 and also give mate on c2. So knight takes a5, queen f3 check, queen e2, queen takes on h1, king d2, b6, and after knight b3, c5. White pieces are simply too bad here. His king is also very badly placed, and white will easily win this position. So that was what happens if white takes on e4 with his knight. If he takes with the pawn, then after bishop g4 check, knight e2, queen e6, we have a rather interesting position where white is temporarily a whole rook up, but his position is full of holes and his pieces are very uncoordinated, and this will enable black to win material very quickly. For example, after rook g1, bishop h5, queen c3. Defending queen c3 has the idea to defend the pawn on c4 at least. Queen takes on e4, bishop e3, rook e8 with dangerous attack, and for example if white plays king d2, black wins with bishop f2, excellent move. White of course cannot take on f2, and if he tries to be smart with rook g3, then black plays just bishop f3, cutting this connection on the third rank, and he will win everything here. So that was why on bishop f5 it is much better for white to capture on f5 instead of to go with bishop e4. Queen takes f5, d5, excellent move, preparing to jump to d4 with the knight. And here black also plays a very nice and excellent move, bishop f2, taking the d4 square under control. And here in this position black has a nice initiative here. Of course, the point of black's play is that white cannot take on f2, because after queen d3 he would be either mated after bishop d2, queen c2, or he would lose everything after queen d2, queen takes on f3. And those were the moves. White had at his disposal here. But he played a3, and after this black will quickly end the game. He played knight takes on d3, finally eliminating this valuable bishop. And after queen takes d3, bishop f5, now we have the consequences. Now we can see the consequences of this bad a3 move. As we said previously, this diagonal d1, a4 is ready for black queen, but with the move a3 it is additionally weakened. This knight on b3 is now not supported by the pawn, and here white is forced to put his queen to c3, taking this natural square away from the b1 knight. So in the game he played queen c3. If he goes to d2, then after a4, knight a5, b6, the knight is trapped. And if he retreats his queen to the king side, we can see the direct consequences of the a3 move. Queen a4, attacking the knight, and after knight from 1 to d2, rook e8. This is a very rare sight in grandmaster practice, to see that one side can have such a bad pieces. So every piece, white piece, is almost on the first rank, and black will simply win the game by playing rook e3 and taking on b3. So there is little white can do against this. That's why he played queen c3, a4, attacking the knight, knight from 3 to d2, and now after a rook from f to e8, black is winning at this point, as his attack is decisive, and white is still not able to disentangle his pieces. And he played knight f1, trying to at least set up some blockade on the e3 square, but also this move will allow rook e1. But the alternatives were no better for white. If he plays knight e4, then after bishop takes e4, f takes e4, queen g4, check, king c2, queen g2, check, he loses this rook on h1. If he plays instead rook g1, for example, then after queen e7, threatening queen e2, knight e4, bishop takes e4, f takes e4, queen takes on e4, bishop d2, bishop f2, rook g3, queen h1 check, king c2, rook takes on g3, h takes on g3, and after rook e2, in this position black is not down with material, and white's king will is still bad on c2, and there is no way he can develop his pieces, that is the knight on b1 and rook on a1, as these pieces are tied down by black's queen. So those were some possible alternatives for white. He played knight f1, and now black decided to win the game with rook e1. Bishop takes on b1, rook takes b1, queen h3 with the future queen g2 was also a way to win the game, but the next move is more straightforward. So rook e1, of course white is forced to take on e1, bishop takes e1, king takes e1. And at this point it may seem that the worst has passed for white, as now he has a rook and two pieces for the queen, which in general should be at least sufficient for the side that has three pieces. But here his pieces are the position of his pieces is very telling. Take a look at how they are still at the first rank, and black will use this to win material. He plays bishop takes db1, excellent move. Although he's exchanging his already developed bishop for the knight on b2, this will enable his queen to quickly join the attack through the square f5. Rook takes b1, queen f5, white played rook a1. Knight d2 was slightly more resilient, but it wouldn't change the outcome of the game. So after queen a5, rook a1, rook e8 check, black is winning, and the rest of the game is not that important to our attacking team. I will just show some of the remaining moves. Knight e3, queen takes on f4, and now these weak pawns will start falling. King f2, queen takes on d4, rook d1, queen h4 check, king g1, and now rook e6, excellent move. The idea is of course to continue with the attack with rook g6, knight g2, rook g6, bishop e3. Finally white has managed to develop his dark squared bishop, but alas, this comes too late. Queen h3, rook d2, the only defense against the mate. Now this third pawn on f3 has fallen, and black is also threatening to win the piece. Rook e1, and now h5, again a masterful attacking move. This is the last resource black will need to finally breach white's defense. White played bishop d4, h4, and now he played h3. He cannot play rook e3 because after rook takes on g2 check, rook takes on g2, queen d1, he will win this bishop on d4. So he played h3, but black finally, that is logically took also this pawn. And after rook e8 check, king h7, rook e3, queen f5, king h2, black finds a final touch, which is rook g3, excellent move, threatening to give check with queen h3. White takes on g3, h takes on g3, and it turns out white cannot take on g3, as this would lead to a loss of this rook on d2. So he went back, queen f1 check, bishop g1, and after queen f3, black is completely winning, and after a few more moves, white finally resigned in this hopeless position. So that would be for our first game of our first chapter. I hope you have enjoyed it. It had some really cool and nice attacking moves like knight h3 and knight f3 with some very original positions and ideas. And that will be for this video, and I will see you in the next game. Bye.